Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and today we're talking about the power of gratitude with my guest, Joel Zuckerman. He has written 10 books, including Grateful and Gratitude Tiger, and his career as a golf and travel writer earned him 2 Book of the Year awards from the International Network of Golf. In fact, I have read and reviewed Gratitude Tiger, and it's sitting right here on my desk as we speak. It's very much a testament to how much his message resonates, whether he's writing or speaking. And before we dive in, today's episode is sponsored by Damon Lemby. He is the CEO of Learn It, Learn It. And he is the author of the Learn It All Leader, Mindset, Traits, and Tools. Now, Damon is passionate about helping individuals and organizations thrive through continuous learning and leadership development. His work is a must-read for anyone looking to grow personally and professionally in today's ever-evolving business landscape. So thank you, Damon, for supporting this episode and for your commitment to empowering leaders everywhere. And you can go to learnit.com and locate him. Now back to my guest. Joel Zuckerman now dedicates his time to exploring and teaching the transformative power of gratitude. Through his writing and speaking, he highlights how proactive, gratitude, workplace appreciation, and simple daily practices can foster loyalty, boost morale, and even improve health. And I do believe that. His framework, the 7 Pillars of Expressive Gratitude, provides a structured yet accessible path for individuals and organizations alike to embrace gratitude as a powerful force for connection and change. Joel, welcome to the show. And before we begin, I would love for you to share with our audience how you like to show up in the world.
Thank you very much, Denise. It's a pleasure to be here. That's an interesting question. I've never heard it phrased quite that way. How I like to show up in the world. I like to express myself to people in a positive way. A friend of mine once said to me years ago that he makes a point of sending a note or letting people know that they did something good, because most people, I'm sure you'll agree, if everything is okay in a restaurant or in a service situation, I don't know, a hairdresser, they'll just say thanks and move on. It's only when they have a complaint that they vocalize it to the person in charge, the manager, etc. I think it's a better idea to vocalize the positive experience that you had, because most of humanity, sadly, are going to keep their gratitude, their good feelings to themselves and only vocalize when something is amiss. I try to take the opposite tack and let people know when things are good. It brightens their day, and by brightening their day, it makes me feel better myself.
And listen, I agree with you. And it's so easy to just go to Yelp or you somewhere and complain. Well, why didn't you try to fix this before you had to complain, I guess, is my real thought process here. There's ways to say, I was in a restaurant the other day with my best friend, and the service was non-existent. And then towards the end of it, she kept coming to the table when we hadn't seen her all through the meal, trying to pick up plates that we were still working on. And I finally just told her, please go away. We'll let you know when we need you. And she did not get a tip. She got a note, but she did not get a tip. And I hated doing that, but she had not earned it.
Right. Well,
now, did I go complain about it? No, but I didn't give her a tip. So
maybe that's not something you should admit to your tens of thousands of listeners, but that's between you and them.
Well, I normally will try to make it right, but this girl was just, I wanted to smack her, to be honest. Right. She was so annoying. But we did stop at the desk and say, listen, we didn't leave a tip and this is why. Right. So hopefully they can either train her better or figure out why the girl isn't getting tipped.
Right. Well, let me tell you a similar restaurant story, which goes against my philosophy. A good friend of mine back when I lived in Savannah, Georgia, if they went to a new restaurant and they didn't like it, they would get up, leave their food untouched or half untouched, go buy a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts, and tell everyone in town, all their friends, don't go to XYZ restaurant. And he
Ouch.
told me this once, and this is a guy who's similar. He's from the Northeast, like I am. He's a direct guy. He wasn't a Southern gentleman trying to spare feelings or anything. And I said to him, wouldn't a better tactic to be call the manager over? Call the manager over and say, listen, I think you need some improvement in this area or that area. In other
Right.
words, give the business a chance to succeed. Don't dismiss it out of hand because your meal isn't done to your specification and then tell people around town, oh my God, I had a terrible experience at such and such restaurant. Give them a chance to rectify it. If the person in charge, the manager or the owner, is diligent and doing their job correctly, they will be happy to hear constructive criticism. So that's the way I try to show up in the world. And I appreciate you, Denise, by asking me it in that way. How do I show up in the world? I just try to be friendly. I try to be grateful. I try to show a positive side. And of course, that all manifests with my gratitude practice, which is basically writing letters of gratitude to people who have helped me along my path. And that's really the gist of what we're going to talk about. That's the gist of the new book, Gratitude Tiger. And that is at the beating heart of my speaking, presentation, and workshops.
Understood. I was telling you in the virtual green room, I really love this book. And when I first spoke with you in the pre-interview, I remember asking you, what the heck is a gratitude tiger? Let's talk about that.
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's catchy. Okay,
It
it's a good
is. Yeah.
it's a good name of a book, Gratitude Tiger. My website for your listeners is gratitudetiger.com. But Tiger is a very simple acronym. Tiger stands for tapping into gratitude engenders rewards. If you are able to tap into the gratitude that surrounds you and me and everyone, if you're able to tap into the gratitude that surrounds you, you will be rewarded. Tiger means tapping into gratitude engenders rewards. And of course, having my long history in the golf business, and I turned professional as a writer when Tiger Woods turned professional as a golfer, although he did slightly better than me by the tune of $1 billion, but that's neither here nor there. People assume that Tiger has something to do with Tiger Woods, but it doesn't. It's just an acronym that will help people get into a gratitude mindset.
And I wondered the same thing because I knew that, you were a golfer and I knew that you had these other credentials. And I instantly went right there, Tiger Woods.
And the other thing is, I never thought about this. You look at my book, anyone can see it online at Amazon or at gratitudetiger.com. It has the colors. Actually, I don't know if it has the colors of LSU. The cover of my book is black and orange, and LSU might be purple and gold. But anyway, more than one person. Oh, I know what it is, Denise. It's the colors of Princeton. And the
Oh,
Princeton mascot is called the Tigers. So when people see the cover of the book, orange and black, and they see Tiger, if they're a Princetonian, if they're an Ivy Leaguer, they think it has something to do with Princeton. And other people have thought it had something to do with LSU, Louisiana State University, who are also the Tigers. But it's not Tiger Woods, it's not Princeton, it's not LSU. It's just the acronym. Tapping into gratitude engenders rewards.
got it. So when did this happen for you? Was there something that happened along the way where you said, I need to really pay attention to how I'm responding to people, how I'm treating people, how I'm gifting people?
So great question. It's a question that people ask me because, for many years when I was young, I worked on Wall Street. I had a business that was moderately successful, lowercase m. It was barely making hay in any respect. And then I became a newspaper columnist and then a magazine writer. And then I started writing books and then I started speaking about golf. And gratitude never really crossed my mind. But the story goes, and this is in the first chapter of the new book. The first chapter is called The Metamorphosis. And before I tell you that story, you have to understand, I moved up in the travel writing world to the point where I was getting 5 to 10 invitations a year to go travel around the world and see new hotels, new golf courses. Tourism departments would sponsor me, or cities, and they would, pay my way to go wherever I was being invited. And then later in my career, I became a columnist for one of our major auto rental companies. They asked me to travel wherever they had a rental kiosk, which was in 1,000 places. Say, go wherever you want, do whatever you want, write about the courses in the restaurants, and send us the bills. So I fell into this magical mystery world of traveling and providing my opinion. And I say in the book, we felt we were entitled like rock stars, but we didn't have the talent, the money, or the groupies. We were just entitled. And this was the life I led for 20 years. And why didn't they fly me direct? They flew me through a connecting city. Or why was the cocktail hour so short? Why did dinner have to drag on for 3 hours? And a lot of people in my business, there were a couple hundred people who did what I did. Everyone had a certain degree of entitlement, or as I call it in the book, for many years, I was kind of an ingrate. And what happened was this. I picked up a book, a famous book from the 90s called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And it's all small stuff. Super successful book. I think it sold 30 million copies. It was on my wife's nightstand, and I was perusing it. And one of the chapters was titled Write a Heartfelt Letter. So I said, I could write. So in the book, by the way, Denise, I'm sure you're familiar with it, and many of your listeners are. It's a book about life hacks and tips and tricks to just lead a better, more meaningful, more fulfilling life. One of the chapters said, write a heartfelt letter. So this was in 2013. This was in November of 2013. So we're coming up 12 years ago. Busy writer. I was writing books and promoting books and doing magazine stories and newspaper columns. And I said, I can write a heartfelt letter. And I sat down at the computer, wrote a letter to a friend of mine, a mentor in my business, in the golf travel business. I texted him for his address. I typed it out and I printed it, which is a very key component. As I was writing the letter, Denise, it never occurred to me I would write a second letter. It was just an intellectual exercise. I can do this. I can do all sorts of different writing assignments. But when I put that letter in the mail with a stamp, when I put it in the mailbox, I felt a feeling of warmth and connectivity that surprised me. I thought to myself, in a couple of days, this man is going to be surprised in the mail by a letter with me expressing my gratitude to him for what he's done to help me along my path. And I found that feeling so intoxicating, the feeling of connecting with someone one-on-one by sharing my good juju with him, that a week later, I wrote another letter. And then it was another, and then it was another. Then I wrote my sister, then I wrote my brother. And after a year, it was 25, and then it was 50, and then it was 100, and now I'm up to 290 letters written and sent as I chug my way towards 300 in the next couple of months or by early 2026.
And I have to ask you, in the book that we're talking about, it was written by Richard Carlson, if anybody wants to go look for it. And I have noticed this. I noticed it at Christmas, believe it or not. People will not write a darn thing. They won't even send Christmas cards anymore. What the heck?
What can I tell you? I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. I just said, what can I tell you? I got something to tell you. Here's a good one.
Okay.
Here's a good one. So let me preface my remarks by saying my core audience is 40 to 90. People who have written and received thank you notes, Christmas cards, holiday notes, whatever it might be. People who are used to the US mail. And we'll get into why mail is important, much more impactful than an email or a text or a GIF or a TikTok or an emoji or anything like that. But about 2 months ago, I was asked to speak at a very high-end hotel here where I live. I live in a resort town called Park City, Utah. And one of the high-end hotels contacted me and said, will you come speak to our staff? I said, sure. She said to me, the HR director, they are finger pointing and backbiting and backstabbing, and nobody has any gratitude. And I know that you can impart a message that will help them. I said, fantastic. She said, but one thing, don't talk about writing letters. I
Uh-oh.
said, don't talk about writing letters? She says, yeah, they're not going to write letters. These are people in their 20s, maybe up to their mid 30s. Many of them are Hispanic. I want you to impart a message of gratitude that doesn't involve letters. So this was now a complex assignment for me, because typically you can wind me up and send me out on stage and I'll do a 45-minute keynote called the 7 Pillars of Expressive Gratitude. And the keynote concerns writing letters of gratitude. So I had to rejigger what I normally do for this audience, because their boss told me, these people don't even want to email. They just want to text. So how am I supposed to impart a message of gratitude when my whole focus is writing letters to people who have helped you? Well, needless to say, I figured it out. I did the presentation. I touched upon other things, and it went over very well. But what I do and what I advocate for others to do is kind of a lost art. The art of the handwritten letter, or in my case, Denise, it's a typewritten letter. I use the word processor on the computer that allows me to collate and archive all these hundreds of letters I've written. And of course, I've written to some people more than once. So I can look back and see what I've said to whoever and when, and what I might want to say differently a year or 5 years or 8 years later. But it is a lost art. And I think it's an art that needs to come back, if not to the forefront, at least to our consciousness, because the key component of what I talk about in the book, as you read, and when I speak, is when you write letters of gratitude, when you express gratitude to someone else, it makes you feel good.
It
Everything I
does.
do, everything that I do, these 290 letters that I've written and sent, stamp, envelope, mailbox, I wrote because writing them makes me feel good. That's the number one pillar of the 7 pillars of expressive gratitude.
And while you're talking, I'm scribbling notes like crazy, but I've been cleaning out my garage. It looks like 2 storage units got together and made babies. It's awful in there. I can't stand it. I open my garage door and go, oh God, and I just shut the door again. But I've been cleaning.
You can't even look at it.
I can't. But I've been cleaning out closets. It's just, most people spring clean. I autumn clean. Don't ask me why, I just do. But I found 2 very large, big plastic containers. And I sat down on the floor and I started reading letters from my brothers when they were in the service. Both of my brothers are dead now. I read letters from my mom, birthday cards, Christmas cards, and I was instantly taken back to that time. And I'm not a crier, I'm not a weeper, but I'm telling you, I have one of my cats. He's a huge cat. His name is #Hamilton is Nass. He's 20 pounds. And at one point, I realized that he had climbed up and he was trying to find a way to climb up my chest and comfort me. And I think I cried on his tail. I'm pretty sure I did. So,
The
but
power of memory,
that's
right?
exactly right. And I'm
Nostalgia.
sorry, texts are not going to do it. Yes, texts
Yeah.
are great. They're quick and they're easy and they make a point. But unless you have something tangible in your hand, those memories may not ever come back.
You're 100% right. And let me interject about the texting. I mentioned to your listeners, the first chapter of the book is called the new book, Gratitude Tiger. The first chapter is called The Metamorphosis, shows how I went from this entitled, I don't mean to say like I was a jerk, but just a guy who expected to live this life of privilege, to someone who became very invested in showing gratitude. That's the first chapter. The last chapter is called Finishing This Text with a Word About Texts. And I make the same point that you did. There's a tremendous efficacy in texting, that it's quick. One of the points I make in the book is when you text someone out of the blue, not someone in your regular orbit, not your daughter or your cousin or your best friend to go, who's picking up dinner, or I'm stopping at the gas station, but you text someone from out of the blue, it has a dual effect. On the one hand, you are reaching out to someone who has been a friend or important to you in the past. The second thing is you are making them think about you for the few seconds it takes them to read the text. They might be busy at work, or maybe they're doing crossword puzzles, who cares? But by intruding, for lack of a better word, into their world with an unexpected text, you now force them to consider you as someone who is part of, or has been in the past, part of their life. So texting is a wonderful tool, but it's ephemeral, it's temporary, it doesn't last like a letter does, and which is a perfect segue for me to say, why the letter writing? Again, let me reiterate, I do everything on the computer. So it spares people my handwriting, and more importantly, that I have this archive of letters now approaching 300. But it doesn't matter if it's a handwritten letter also that's put in the mail or left on a bureau, backpack, nightstand, whatever it might be. There's something formal, there's something official about receiving a letter in the mail that is way beyond an email or a text. And that it shows when you write a letter and send it to someone in the mail that you have taken the time, the effort, you extended yourself in a way beyond an email. The sentiment, Denise, can be the same. The content of an email and the content of a letter of gratitude can be exactly the same. But the letter shows a little more dignity, a little more formality, a little more caring. And that is why I have opted to write letters of gratitude, not emails of gratitude and not texts of gratitude.
And cards, thank you cards are so important, particularly where I live on the podcast. And you know what happens, and I've shared this with you. I have in my office hundreds of books. Somewhere along the line, I became known as a podcaster who loves to read. And I do. I'll read a cereal box if that's all that's handy. I don't eat cereal. I don't like it. But if that's the only thing in front of me, I'll read it. And I'm finding that more and more, when these books land on my doorstep, I've got four books that I have to review right now. Oftentimes there's a handwritten card in the book. Those get saved.
That's great. Let me add, I love cereal, unlike you, and I love to read cereal boxes. It's one of my guilty pleasures. You're the first person I've ever met who doesn't like cereal, yet will read a cereal box. So
I'll read anything. I won't watch TV, but I will read anything.
Oh, good for you. Well, that's saving you thousands of hours a year, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And brain matter. So there's
Right.
that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to express gratitude. Just say thank you. When I open these books and a little card falls out, I'm like, ooh, because when the books land, I do what I did with yours. I do the flip, I do the page flip, and I start putting sticky notes in it because I want to come back. I read these books 2.5 to 3 times, no joke. And then the second time I read it, it's because I'm going to review it like I did with yours, Amazon, Goodreads, my blog. And then the third time, the weekend before, which I did last weekend, I sit down and I really read it because I know I'm going to be talking with you. And these books stick with me because, number one, they're a gift. I treat them like they're a gift. Number two, I love to read. I've been reading since I was 3 years old. And honestly, these books, they stay in here. They live in here. They don't go anywhere. I've got 3 bookshelves. I need a fourth one, but I don't have any room. But they get read and they're very much appreciated.
That's wonderful. When I was a golf writer, I received probably 500 books, and a lot of them are coffee table books, and a lot of them are on esoteric subjects about golf that didn't particularly interest me. So I doubt I read a sliver of a fraction of all the books that were sent my way, because everyone who writes a book, myself included now, they want publicity. So I would be, I wouldn't say inundated with books, but over the 20 years that I was active in the golf writing business, I was probably sent 400, 500 books. And unlike you, I did not dive into the vast majority of them. So I give you a lot of credit.
Well, I have to. And even if I didn't have to, I would. But we're going to talk about these books. We're going to talk about you, your life, your story. And I'm not going to understand any of that unless I read the book.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I wasn't as efficacious with my use of time. I was busy writing my own books. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I admire the fact that you are so diligent regarding the receipt of the books that you've gotten. I don't think I sent you a copy of my book. I think it came from my publicist. Otherwise, I would have been happy to enclose a handwritten note to you. And by the way, let me add this. It's a good segue. I've written 290 letters of gratitude on the computer using the word processor, but I've also probably sent out 40, 50, 60, 80 thank you notes in the same period of time. Handwritten thank you notes for a dinner invitation, for a gift, for a party, for an introduction. And that's a great segue to explain to your listeners the difference between a letter of gratitude and a thank you note, if I may.
Oh, absolutely. And it is important. And I write a lot of them. I also will send, an email. I will send something in LinkedIn, but that card's coming. They don't know it, but that card is also coming. And I deeply appreciate my guests. You have no idea. So I have to write to them.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure your guests appreciate you, myself included. But let me tell you the difference in my way of thinking between a thank you note and a letter of gratitude. There are two main differences. Number one, a thank you note is typically sent for a specific reason, as I just mentioned. Thank you for having me to dinner. Thank you for introducing me. Thank you for introducing me to that doctor. He's really been helpful to me. Thank you for the party. Thank you for the gift. So it's sent for a specific reason. A letter of gratitude is a general sense of gratitude towards that person. You might start the letter by saying something specific. Dear Denise, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a wonderful forum, and I know my message is going to resonate with thousands of listeners who otherwise would not know who I am. But then it might segue into a wider discussion of why I'm grateful to you. Okay? So the difference between a thank you note and a letter of gratitude is a thank you note is sent generally for something specific. A letter of gratitude is sent to someone that you feel gratitude to in general. And the second difference, besides general versus specific, is if you were raised a certain way, as you probably were, as many, many people, tens, if not 100 million people in this country, mostly over the age of 30, 40, 50. You're familiar with the concept of thank you notes, okay? So you might feel if you have someone to dinner or if you give someone a gift, particularly the best example is a wedding gift, okay? You will feel a little, what's the word I want to use? You will feel that
obligated.
A thank you note should be coming back to you.
Absolutely.
The best example, of course, is a wedding gift. You have probably sent wedding gifts, I know I have, that have not been acknowledged. And what can I say? It leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? Of all the social niceties, of all the social obligations, writing thank you notes for a bar mitzvah, a wedding, a sweet 16, a quinceanera, for nice gifts are something that people should expect when they provide a nice gift or a monetary gift. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, listen, when I was a child, Christmas, the day after Christmas, we had to sit down and write thank you notes to every gift that we ever received. And, we'd get our heads smacked if we didn't do it. And thank goodness for my mom. You're going to write a thank you note.
Exactly. So you're underscoring my point. So here's the second part where the differentiation between letters of gratitude and thank you notes comes. A thank you note is, let's say it's not unexpected. Okay. If you had me to dinner and I wrote you a thank you note and sent it in the mail, or even in this case, fine, an email, a text, you would not be surprised. You would say, oh, that Joel, he's got good manners. He wrote me a thank you note or a thank you
Oh,
email or a thank you text.
I didn't think about manners. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. But the difference is a letter of gratitude, Denise, is unexpected. It comes out of the blue. Okay. So it's super important. So let me reiterate that one more time. A thank you note is often expected because you did something for someone. You had them to dinner, you had them to a party, you made an introduction. And if that person thanked you with a note, whether it's in the mail or an email or a text, you wouldn't be surprised. You'd say, oh, that Joel, he's well mannered. He sent me a thank you note because I had him to dinner. By contrast, a letter of gratitude should take the recipient completely by surprise because you felt compelled to write that person a letter to tell them how you feel about them, which underscores one other main point. A thank you letter, a thank you note is somewhat of an obligation if you were raised a certain way, as you just described at Christmas. You were obligated to write thank you notes, whether you wanted to or not. Otherwise, the fear of God would be put into you by your mom and your dad.
Oh, yeah,
That
we even wrote thank you to Santa, even though
yeah,
we knew that Santa was
he's
mom and
fake.
dad. But
So
Santa got a thank you card or
so
no.
so you guys, you and your family were obligated. Okay, 50 odd years ago, I had a bar mitzvah, Jewish rite of passage for a 13-year-old, and the day after, and for the day after that, my mother basically stood over me. She gave me the addresses, and I wrote thank you cards to people who had given me a scarf or a pen set or whatever it was. That's an obligation. A letter of gratitude, by contrast, is a compulsion. You
Oh,
feel compelled to share your gratitude, your good feelings with the recipient. That's the difference to obligate. And there's a chapter in the book titled exactly that: obligation versus compulsion. A letter of
yeah.
gratitude kind of flows out of you because you have good feelings towards someone. It's not an obligation.
They are different. And I'll be honest with you, when for the longest kind of time when I had to write a thank you note, I kind of resented it because I remember my mom standing over me and saying, no, you're not getting breakfast until you write these. She wasn't that mean, but there was
Right.
going to be punishment. And the punishment was always her just looking at us. And we didn't want her to look at us like that. So,
And look at what's happened. I don't know if you have children. I assume if you do, then they have been taught the same. They have inherited the same gene that your mother passed down to you.
my niece still does. My brother, I mentioned that both of my brothers are passed now, and my niece was taught exactly the same thing by my brother. And I get
Right.
thank you notes from her. She
Right.
she lives in California. My sister and I basically stepped up to be her grandparents in a way because she is about 29. She's got a daughter herself, and she's an orphan. Both of her parents are gone. So my sister and I made an instant decision to step in as quasi grandparents, although we're not the right age for it, but doesn't matter. She gets Christmas
Right.
cards, she gets gifts, her daughter gets gifts. We stepped in.
And she sends you thank you cards.
She does. And her little
Hmm.
girl who just turned 9, I get the cutest little cards. And as
Right.
she's growing, her penmanship is much better, but I'm saving every one of them.
And you're making a great point. You're underscoring what I'm saying. So I was brought up a certain way. My daughters do the same thing.
Hmm.
And their children are too young. My oldest grandchild is just 5, but I promise in a couple of years, she will be, and her brother and the other ones, the other little ones in the family, they will be taught to thank people who have assisted them or gifted them in the same manner. So it's a certain strain of humanity. It's not a large strain. I have no idea. There's no empirical evidence one way or the other. I don't know if it's 5% or 10% or maybe 20%. Most people are not going to do what you do or what I do. And guess what, Denise? It sets us apart. And that's another part of my message, okay? If you take the time to do what we're talking about, your prospects of getting a better job, your prospects of impressing someone who could be a mentor, someone who might hold the key to your future, increases exponentially. Because if there's 20 candidates for a job, the vast majority are not going to reach back out with a thank you note to say, I appreciate the interview, I look forward to further discussion, et cetera, et cetera. So by using the written word, by using a stamp in an envelope, you set yourself apart in such a positive, dramatic way, because most people are not going to do it. I told you a little while ago about that fancy hotel staff. Fancy hotel, I spoke to the whole staff, whether they were bellmen or publicity or front of the house or back of the house or maintenance. This generation, the vast majority, are not going to do this type of thing. So if you're a younger person listening to this, you'll set yourself apart by thanking someone in writing, whether it's a thank you note or a letter of gratitude.
And going back to my little great niece, and she doesn't know I'm her great aunt. I'm Aunt Denise. She doesn't care. Before she could write, she would make little pictures for me and mail those. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, they do what they can do.
That's right.
I gave a donation to a friend of mine. A good friend of mine passed a few years ago, and I became quite friendly with his daughter, who was battling cancer. And I don't know if she reached out to me. I might have seen it on social media. She was raising money for a network of cancer survivors who are trying to deal with raising their kids. I forget the name of the network. Anyway, I made a donation to her in her honor to the network of young parents with kids fighting cancer. The parents are fighting cancer, and all the stress that you have to deal with keeping your kids on schedule while you're dealing with the ugliness of fighting cancer. Made a donation. When she wrote me a thank you note for giving the donation, at the bottom of the card was from her 8-year-old daughter, who wrote, "Dear Joel, thank you for taking care of my mom." And it was
Right.
signed Maddie, and in parentheses, 8 years old. So it's great. It's wonderful. It won't be too long before I'm getting those type of handwritten notes from my grandchildren, and I look forward to that day, but it's still a few years away.
I can imagine. And you've got this time with them where they can pick up what you're talking about just by watching you. Kids watch us. I think a
Right.
lot of people don't understand we're watching all the time and we're recording in our little heads. So be careful what you do. But Joe,
Well,
go ahead. I'm
I'll
sorry.
go on.
Well, I
No.
was,
I was going to go off on a tangent talking about. So in the new book, Gratitude Tiger, there are 12 sample letters. Okay, to show my readers what I say and to who. There's one letter each from 2013, which is when I started, through 2024. I went through the archive of 20 or 30 letters a year and picked out one from each year that showed a different type of gratitude: a funny letter, a transactional letter, an emotional letter. And one of the letters I wrote to my granddaughter on her first birthday, which was in 2020. And someday, when she'll be able to understand the verbiage in that letter, when I talk about the state of the world, that was the middle of the pandemic, and how things were topsy-turvy, as sadly they are still today in a different way.
yes, they
When
are.
she's older, and can cogitate what I've written, and hopefully I'll be around, but of course, no guarantees, it gives me a lot of pleasure to think about the sentiment that I shared with her about her family and her mom and her father and her grandparents and how much I loved her. And this is also part of the legacy. And I'm pleased that I was able to put that letter in print for readers to see. It was one of the 12 letters that I chose from 2013 through 2024. Her letter, her first birthday, coincided in 2020. So that's just another. There's so many wonderful attributes of writing letters of gratitude. This podcast could be 3 hours long and we still wouldn't cover it all.
I agree with you. And I wanted to ask you, Joel, you have a very intentional way of teaching gratitude. 7 paragraphs, 7 sentences, 7 words. Can we talk about that framework?
Absolutely. So that's a chapter in the new book. That's exactly the name of the chapter. 7 paragraphs, 7 sentences, 7 words. So I'm a professional writer. I've written 10 books. I've written 1,000 stories and nearly 300 letters of gratitude. And I rarely deal with writer's block. That's point one. Point two is I'm effusive. We've been talking now, and you can tell that I'm a passionate person who I'm never at a loss for words on the page or speaking to you or speaking to anyone. So my letters tend to be 7 paragraphs. They're freewheeling streams of consciousness where I'll say, remember the time, dear Bill, this is a letter of gratitude. I want you to know that our college years were some of the funnest, most productive, and craziest times of my life. Remember back when we were at spring break, blah, 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 blah. I can go on and fill a page lickety split. Most people, Denise, are not wired that way. They don't have the time. They don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the effusive heart on their sleeve nature. So you can write a wonderful letter of gratitude in 7 sentences. It doesn't have to be 7 words. Emily Post, the great etiquette expert, says a wonderful thank you note is 3 or 4 sentences. So 7 sentences is, you could argue, overkill. But I'm also saying, and I speak about this to corporate groups, particularly bosses with their charges, with their employees, whether they have 10 employees or 100 or more, you can show deep gratitude in 7 words. You can show gratitude to your people in 7 words. I'll give you a couple of examples. You are the cog in the machine. That's it. That's all you say. It doesn't have to be written. In the office environment, Slack, interoffice memo, email, text is fine. This department would not run without you. Bam, 7 words. That's all it counts. That's all it takes to make someone feel validated, to make an employee feel seen and appreciated. It doesn't have to be in a work setting, Denise. You can do 7 words to a friend. Bill, you have, I have to count on my fingers, so don't hold me to 7 words, but a 1 sentence. Bill, you've been a great friend to me forever. Thank you. That's all you have to send to Bill. You say to a loved one, you are the greatest daughter I could imagine. That's it. Takes you 10 seconds, and you are going to change, elevate someone's day. So the chapter in the book, 7 paragraphs, 7 sentences, 7 words, underscores that you can show deep gratitude in less time than it takes you to wash your hands. I enjoy the creative process, and I'm sure, hopefully, many of your your listeners will embrace this concept of writing letters of gratitude to people who have helped them. But it doesn't have to be wordy, or as I like to say, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter.
You know, I'm sitting here very quietly thinking, I need to write my sister a note. I really do. It's time. And I mean, I love her. I'm grateful for her. We're the only ones left out of a fairly large family. And we're it. I mean, we're it. There's nobody else. Our parents are dead. Our siblings are gone. One just died.
Denise, let me
Go ahead. I'm sorry, but he died of a double lung transplant. And I mean, things are rough. You know, you lose family.
He died of a double lung transplant. That sounds horrendous.
He had a double lung transplant. I should rephrase that. He lived
Right.
for years, but at the end, it was horrifying. And the niece that I'm talking about is his daughter. But when it was time,
I had a brother-in-law.
It was time.
I had a brother-in-law who died from lung disease too. I forget the official name of that disease. It had to do with pulmonary, not a pulmonary embolism, but it's some sort of pulmonary disease. It
All right.
was very unpleasant, as you know.
I
So my
do.
point is this, and I say this in the book, and I would never speak without using this thought from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and this has to do with what you just said about your good feelings and your love and your connection to your sister. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great essayist from the 18th century, said, "You can never do a kindness too soon because you never know how soon it will be too late."
And we don't. We absolutely do not. So, what I'm hearing you say is live your best life every day and show your gratitude to the people who make your life good.
Absolutely. You can never do a kindness too soon because you
No.
never know how soon it will be too late. And on that note, I've written all these letters now, 290, give or take. I've lost about 15, maybe 18 individuals that I wrote to.
Mm.
The very first thought I had when I heard someone passed on was, I'm so glad that I expressed my gratitude to them in a letter of gratitude before they died. Again, not to sound self-centered and selfish, the reason I write the letters is it makes me feel good. The seven pillars, Denise, right? Pillar number one is writing letters of gratitude makes you, the letter writer, feel good. Pillar number two is obvious. It makes the recipient feel good. Imagine you come home and open the mail and it's bills, circulars, val packs, solicitations, catalogs, and there's a letter from someone from your present or maybe your past, and
And
you
it's
open it.
shocking.
It's
I've
shocking.
actually had this happen. Open up
Yeah,
my mailbox and I'm, thumbing through the garbage and getting rid of it.
right.
I don't even bring it in the house. I just go straight to the garbage can and put it in there. And a real letter, not at Christmas time because you expect Christmas cards, but I'm like, what? And I will open it right there in the driveway and devour it. It doesn't make
Yeah.
it into the house right away either because I want to know what it is. I need to know.
So you understand, you and I are kindred spirits,
I
obviously. You
get it.
understand what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I like to think I got 290 letters out the door. I know a few have been framed. I assume a few have been tossed. But I like
Oh,
to think, well, who knows? I mean, but my point is, it's a three-parter. A few have been framed, a few I'm sure have been tossed, but I like to think that the vast majority have been saved, have been put in a box like you were talking about in your garage. I don't know this for a fact. I do know a couple of people have told me they framed it. I do know a couple of people tell me they keep it where they can read it in their office. But some of the letters over the years I wrote to people who I had very little contact with. I had an interaction or an interlude or a business endeavor, and I wrote them a letter of gratitude, not a thank you note. And I didn't mean that much to them, so I'll stand by my words. Some have been framed, some have been tossed, but I would like to think the vast majority have been saved.
I think they are, Joel. And going back to my brother a little bit, he would send me just the oddest things every once in a while. And for Christmas one year, he sent me a train because we had a train around the Christmas tree when we were kids. And he loved them. So I've got my very own Christmas train. But I would take, and he could not spell my name. I'm telling you, I knew it was from him, even when he was trying to be anonymous, because he'd spell my name Denice all of his life. That is not how you spell my name. It's Denise. So I knew it was coming from him. And I cut those labels out very carefully, and they're in the box with the thank yous and the cards and the old letters
So
from when he was in the service. I've got them all.
it begs a question: how does he not know how to spell his sister's name?
He was a brat.
What does that even mean? He's
He
a
was,
brat who didn't know how to spell?
I think he just didn't. I think once I started making a fuss out of it when we were
Oh,
kids.
he did it on purpose.
Oh, yeah, he never would
Okay.
admit to it, but he was just a brat. So,
Okay.
and I loved him. But,
Oh,
but he tried to send me something anonymously from Amazon, and Amazon
oh,
sends you the little, card. It was Denice. I went, And I sent him a note and I said, or I texted him, I said, thank you for the thing from Amazon. He said, it wasn't me. I said, Denice. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Off we
he
went.
was the jig was up.
Oh,
He was
yeah,
caught red-handed with that
big
one.
time, big time. But when you can open those boxes up and find these things, again, you're right back in that memory.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm very happy. My life has taken a lot of twists and turns, mostly good. But this later in life, I call this my last act. This book, the speaking, telling people that their lives will improve. So listen, we're all very self-interested. Everybody wants what's best for themselves, of course, goes without saying. What people don't realize, and the my goal, my calling, for lack of a better term, not to overstate it, is to try and impart to people that if you show gratitude to others in your orbit, you will feel better. That's it. I can speak for 45 minutes. People will laugh, they'll cry, they'll be thought provoked. I'll give them some thought provoking concerns and statistics about gratitude in the workplace or the health benefits of fierce gratitude. But all I'm trying to say, and you have read and reviewed so beautifully, again, thank you, my new book, which is 160 pages, not the thickest book in the world, but also not a comic book. All I'm saying in the book, all I'm saying when I speak is that if you write letters of gratitude, you will feel good. Of course, the recipient is going to be over the moon, but that's not why you write them. You write them for yourself. And I have discovered this by pure happenstance. We talked about it earlier when I read that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And I wrote a letter. I want to reiterate what I said to you earlier in this conversation. When I wrote that first letter, it never occurred to me I would write a second letter. I just wrote it to prove that I could. And then when I put it in the mail, I go, wow, that feels great. So let me quickly share with you there's 3 hits of dopamine that your listeners who start writing letters will get when they write letters of gratitude. The first hit of dopamine will come when you identify who you're going to write to, as you just did. I'm going to write my sister. The second hit of dopamine comes when you reread the letter that you've just written. And the third and final comes when you drop that letter in the mail. So there are 3 specific, separate, euphoric moments that occur when you write letters of gratitude. And I must segue and tell you right now, not too many people will acknowledge the letters, which is a whole nother subject. I'll touch on it
Oh,
very briefly. You can ask a
please
question
do,
or two.
because my eyebrows just hit my hairline.
Yeah. So there's an expression I use in the book. It's called doxophobia, DOXXOPHO, doxophobia, the fear of being recognized, the fear of being complimented. Many people suffer from doxophobia. I've written 290 letters of gratitude. I've heard from probably 70 or 80 people who sent me a text or a phone call, a couple of note cards back, but mostly a text. Got your letter. Wow, what a lovely surprise. Which basically is all all you want. All you want. You don't expect a singing telegram. You don't expect a bouquet of roses. It's just nice to know the postman did his job
Yeah,
because
that
the U.S.
it landed.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the U.S. Post Office is not infallible. Okay,
No,
it's a
they're not even very
99%.
good.
Well, I hope you're wrong because I go by the statistic a 99% success rate, which means 2 or 3 of my letters never found the mark. More's the pity. But the point being is that the vast majority of individuals I've written to have not acknowledged the letter. And this is
Um,
a hard lesson to learn.
yeah.
So please chime in because I could go on for this, but I know I can sense you have a question or a comment.
I was trying to write down doxophobia. I write a lot while I'm listening to you, but I instantly wrote underneath that imposter syndrome. I don't know if they're related, but that's what came into my head.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Most people, and you described it, I thought beautifully, and that's what led me to imposter syndrome. is that many of us don't understand our value, our wisdom, and we think we don't
Oh,
deserve what just came to us.
I understand. Thank you.
Does that
They
make
feel
sense?
yes, they have an imposter syndrome. I'm not as Wayne's World, Wayne and Garth. We're not worthy. We're not
Right,
worthy. It's the line from.
exactly.
Interesting. I never thought of it quite that way. Well, let me say this. My letters, and rarely, very rarely read like Hallmark cards. Denise, you're my whole world. I can't express how grateful I am to you. Where would I be without you? That's not how
See,
I
I'm
write letters.
gagging. I just looked at my Thomas bottle going, I'm gonna need that in a
Yeah,
minute.
that's not how I write letters of
No.
gratitude. I tell you that I'm grateful to you. I go, boy, you were such a jerk when we were in middle school, but man, you really straightened out in high school, and I don't know where we'd be. So the ultimate manifestation of these letters is showing gratitude, but it's in a conversational way. i'm
Right.
not I don't think I've ever made anyone. I mean, I've never even considered this. My whole life is making people uncomfortable face to face, but when I write letters of gratitude, I never think I'm making anyone uncomfortable. I'm just saying, hey Bill, hey Janie, I'm grateful to you. You know why? Because you held that elevator for me. I was running late. It was an important appointment, and you saw me. I was still 30 yards away. I'm just making this up, obviously, as I go. It's more conversationally gratitude. I'm
Hmm.
showing my gratitude in a conversational way. Well, listen, you read my book. You read those 12 letters. None of them are going to make you gag. None of them are going to cause diabetes. Now, the letter the letter to my
Sorry.
granddaughter, the letter to my granddaughter on her first birthday, I urge you to reread the last paragraph or the last couple paragraphs of that letter. That's, I'm not going to lie, that's pretty poignant as I talk about exiting her life at some point, and that I hope she'll maintain fond memories of me. But most of the letters are not going to make you feel like you just said, like you have imposter syndrome. I think the lack of acknowledgement comes from, it's a little too close to the bone. Most people don't want to go deep.
And
And when
they
I
don't
share
want
my
to be
gratitude,
seen. Many people just don't want to be seen. Listen, as I've shared with you and anybody who listens to this podcast, I am a highly committed introvert, and I like to think I'm invisible, but guess what? I'm not.
yeah, no, you're not. I know you make a point of keeping your face off the internet, but
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
have a public forum. You know what, Denise? I don't know what it is, and we could go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out why people don't acknowledge letters of gratitude. But let me share a brief anecdote with you about the impact that they have. Okay. And I think I mentioned this in one of the chapters in the book. I don't know, probably in the chapter titled Doxophobia, if that's even a chapter in the book. I don't have my book open in front of me. I wrote it. I don't feel the need to reread it. Um, but there's a story in one of the chapters in the book where I talk about a letter I wrote to my wife's best friend, who went through a very tough divorce, acrimonious, and she kept her head held high and kept earning a living and supporting her family, and not slinging mud at her soon to be ex husband. And I wrote her a letter of gratitude, a gratitude slash admiration. She's a friend of mine, also, obviously. I've known her for 40 plus years. And she never said a word to me. I wrote this letter early. This is probably in 2014. I've been with her a dozen times. We live on opposite sides of the country. I've been with her a dozen times since I wrote her that letter. She's never said a word to me, but she said something to my wife. She used an expression I've never heard before or since. She said, Joel's letter took my knees out from under
Hmm.
me. Joel's letter took my knees out from under me. So, my point, Denise, is that even when your letter of gratitude isn't acknowledged explicitly, it has deep impact. People feel whatever they feel. I've spent a lot of time diving into this. Why don't people send a text? Got your letter. Wow, what a pleasant surprise. Thank you. That's it. Takes less than 10 seconds.
Right.
But you can't explain it. You just can't explain why people are why they are.
No, I think you just did what she said to your wife. I think so often people are so taken aback, and then they have to do some searching within their own selves, and it can get uncomfortable.
Whatever it is, I think your theory is fine. I think my theory is fine.
Right.
It just is. So you
It just
have to
happens.
learn.
Yeah.
It just is. So you have to learn. And there's a chapter in the book called Acknowledge You Probably Won't Be Acknowledged. That's where that story is. It's not a chapter called Doxophobia. I tried to give the book a title. I tried to give the book chapters clever or semi-clever names. And that story and that concept of doxophobia is in the chapter Acknowledge You Probably Won't Be Acknowledged. And
Right.
just deal with it. Send out the letter. Put the goodness out in the universe. And everything is available at gratitudetiger.com. The new book is Gratitude Tiger. The website is gratitudetiger.com. The new book is available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and any retailer of note, book retailer of note. If they don't stock it, you can order it. But my main focus is bringing this message to corporate audiences, wellness retreats, nonprofits. And you can find out all about me, see videos and testimonials at the website, gratitudetiger.com.
I was just going to ask you about that, so thank you for putting that in there. Joel, thank you for being here with us today and helping us see gratitude not as just a feeling, but as a practice. And listen, I practice gratitude almost constantly. I didn't used to when I was young and arrogant. Wasn't that long ago. But I have learned so much from people like you and other guests on this show. I wake up, I say thank you. I drink my first sip of water, I say thank you. I shove a 20-pound.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and to share some of my thoughts. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, listen, everybody. For those of you who want to learn more, visit gratitudetiger.com and connect with Joel on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, Gratitude Tiger. And listen, grab this book, Gratitude Tiger, add it to your personal and professional library. And always, thank you for tuning into your Partner in Success Radio. Be sure to subscribe, share this episode with your network, and let me know what resonated with you most. I am Denise Griffitts. Thank you for listening, and I will see you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Joel, again, thank you so much.
All righty. My pleasure.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.